Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Last night, we got the news Tesla released a new trim of the Cybertruck, a dual motor all-wheel drive variant for $59,990. I put together this chart going over everything that you have to give up to save that $20,000 relative to the premium trim. But as you can see, the graphic also includes what you still get for this price. I'm not going to read through all of these, so go ahead and pause the screen or take a screenshot if you'd like. But just a few thoughts. First of all, this is not some desperate inventory clearing situation like I've seen it described. Tesla most likely doesn't even have any of this exact trim with these hardware changes in inventory, which is why they're built to order and not available for delivery until June. And before I go on, I will not bury the lead. Elon did say that this is only for the next 10 days. Which caught a lot of people off guard, but for me, it's actually pretty simple to understand. First of all, it's all about marketing buzz and creating chatter and creating urgency, which is why Elon added this late night 10-day only clause. With this new trim, Tesla is casting a much wider net to get more people looking into the Cybertruck, as we know sales have been quite poor to date with higher price trims only. And in my opinion, this is far and away the strongest Cybertruck offering that Tesla has made yet. Tesla clearly listened to the backlash after the rear-wheel drive failure and has kept a majority of the most important aspects of what customers really want. And with this new wave of interest, some percentage of that, even if small, may jump up to a more expensive trim and help to clear that inventory a bit, which we can be sure Tesla does have some inventory of the higher price trims. But if anything, for this new variant, it could have more to do with clearing out upstream supply chain inventory, whether it's 4680 starting to pile up, or motors, or anything else. Tesla producing a higher volume trim will help to absorb any of that excess supply, since sales have been a lot slower than Tesla was expecting. And this 10-day window is clearly just meant to test the market and determine what the order flow looks like without committing to a long-term window of what's likely to be low margin production. So if Tesla gets a ton of orders in this limited window, perhaps Tesla will continue at that price and then ramp production because they have some data that they can reasonably expect strong demand into the future, which would make those low margin sales worth it because they're gaining all of the economies of scale from higher volume. But if demand is tepid or perhaps not as high as they would hope, then Tesla will likely raise the price a few $1,000s in early March and settle into a higher priced, higher margin trim to run for the next few months and beyond. And look, while I would love better communication from Tesla on just about everything these days, the other side of the coin is that Elon knows what gets people talking, what sparks virality, because all of our outrage and questions and the discussion that ensues spreads the news farther. So yes, Elon will turn some people off with a lack of communication, but it also means the news gets seen by more people without Tesla paying anything for advertising. It's just trade-offs. And most importantly, this is a pull forward of action. So rather than Tesla release this variant and then have to wait months to have a good idea of how it's going to go, Elon is compressing that timeline to 10 days. Tesla will have a very good idea what kind of juice this trim has at this price point, and then Tesla can pivot accordingly as they see fit. So customers won't love it, and some will not rush into a purchase, but from Tesla's perspective, it's the best way to quickly learn and to get the word far and wide. And with perfect timing, Elon basically just confirmed what I said, responding to the question, how much will the Cybertruck be in 10 days? Elon said it depends on how much demand we see at this price level. Once again, testing the market, getting answers as fast as possible. And just to be clear, there's very little chance that Tesla would end Cybertruck production now, in my opinion. They have invested so much into this supply chain and new manufacturing techniques and new technology. And for all of that development, Tesla is still yet to really reap the rewards of all of that hard work. And don't forget, Elon said eventually the Cybertruck will be an autonomous cargo and goods delivery truck. So there's still a pretty big addressable market where politics and preferences are largely removed, because that would move it to more utility based. Plus, it's a completely different form factor from the rest of the lineup, unlike the Model S and X. So to me, it just makes too much sense to keep this vehicle around even if sales continue to struggle relative to expectations. And even though to date it's been a low volume seller, Tesla should still have some tricks up its sleeve for this production line in terms of new offerings and new technology. Think dry battery electrodes fully scaled for 4680s, which is likely at least partially responsible for this new sub $60,000 starting point. We talked about how crucial that development was despite minimal attention, and I think this news is at least partially an outcome of that achievement. And just to be clear, because there was some confusion, the main difference in the lower price trim when it comes to the Vault, it will not have this under vault storage. So this sub trunk or extra storage will not be offered. And when it comes to the new suspension on this trim, West did say coil springs are industry standard, and with dual valve adaptive dampers, we did not compromise ride quality at all. So this new variant won't be as capable off-roading, but again, for a majority of people that just want a road truck, this should be a very attractive offer. Now, I do have to say, if Tesla runs this offer and can't drum up demand at this price point with those features, then internally Tesla may have to come to terms with missing on the design of the vehicle, and perhaps overestimating how much of the public would be willing to adopt something so futuristic looking. And it's true that if Tesla were from first principles to design a cargo delivery van or truck or whatever, it most likely would be materially different than what the Cybertruck is. But Tesla already has hundreds of millions of dollars invested into this specific product. So my guess would be Tesla would continue to develop this line, and worst case scenario, wait to use this vehicle for autonomous goods delivery, rather than cancel the project entirely. One other thing to keep in mind, while Tesla may have information quickly in the next 2 weeks or so, we will not find out what type of sales increase this trim led to until late Q2 and mostly into Q3. Again, because deliveries aren't starting until June. So do not expect to see a delivery jump in Q1, and really not for most of Q2 either. And not to sound like a broken record, but I will always harp on Tesla's safety being the #1 most overlooked aspect by the general public. Mary said, "I did a lot of moaning and groaning about my husband getting a Cybertruck, but the self-driving feature is completely life-changing. Call me a convert. I've never felt so safe in a car. Putting my kids in any other car feels reckless by comparison." And she shared the story that's also gone far and wide, so I won't cover it in depth, but someone posted, "My Tesla literally saved my life yesterday." Long story short, they passed out while driving on the freeway mid-conversation with his wife on the phone. FSD was engaged. It detected that he lost consciousness, immediately slowed down, activated the hazards, and safely pulled over to the shoulder. No crash, no danger to anyone on the road. And one thing I always think about when I read these stories is, why is Tesla not contacting these people and creating a 30 to 60 second ad of them sharing their story and then running that far and wide? I mean, price points and technology and features aside, hearing real world stories like this are what grabs people in this day and age. And as we've seen over the years, there is no shortage of stories like this for Tesla to share. David Forer from Tesla Charging on LinkedIn said, "We're looking for a high energy executor to own commercial charging sales in Central Europe. You will close epic commercial deals across our entire product range, supercharging and mega charging." As I've said before, only a company like Tesla with so much going on will you have a scenario where large portions of the investor group forget things like Elon saying eventually they want to make the Tesla Semi at Giga Berlin. Now, how soon will that happen? I cannot tell you. Frankly, we may not see anything like that until late 2027 into 2028. Reason being, Tesla is going to want to start production at Nevada at the main factory, learn as much as they can, start deploying the Semi and the new charging infrastructure across the states and North America. And once they have a year or two under their belt, learning as much as they can, then they can start things in phase 2, if you will, at Giga Berlin. But I'll admit, I could be wrong on this one, as I'm sure Tesla would not want to ship Tesla semis to Europe in high volume. They would rather start local production across Europe as soon as possible. And with this job posting, Tesla is clearly looking to start building out the mega charger infrastructure across Europe, which could indicate that the Tesla Semi might make its debut with a few deliveries into Europe later this year. But we have to remember this will be an infrastructure first approach by Tesla, meaning they build the chargers and relationships with different companies and fleets now so they can actually sell the Tesla Semi later when it's in production. And you better believe Tesla will want the first mover advantage for these semi mega charging sites across the EU, just like they're now getting their hands on in the United States. And speaking of hiring, Tesla is now hiring for an AI hardware engineer in India for the first time. This role will design, develop, and test hardware components and systems, and develop prototypes and proof of concepts. And of course, this AI hardware team is the one that designs and develops Tesla's advanced AI chips. Think AI 5, 6, 7, 8, and beyond. So it's a very early sign, but I think it would confirm the notion that we've had for a while that Tesla is planning on being in India for the long term. They're still now just getting their footing with charging infrastructure and vehicle sales, but long term we know the energy opportunity is massive, the solar opportunity, the Optimus opportunity. And so not only will Tesla look to hire some of the brightest engineers in India from a cost arbitrage standpoint, but this is likely the beginning of Tesla building out new R&D factories and more development ecosystems as well. Joe Tetmeyer shared a new video of Cybercab spotted at Giga Texas. And if Farzad happens to see this, he may be in shambles, as these apparently have no steering wheel. This isn't a certainty, but Joe said these Cybercabs may be production versions being prepared for crash testing. As he said, the wheels seen in this video appear to be identical to those used in the production area. It's just that some of them obviously do not have the wheel covers installed, and others still have those protective stickers on the wheels. And Joe said the carabiner looking device on the front of these vehicles is for the crash testing for a cable to pull the vehicles when needed. We finally got an update on the battle between this administration and the state of California. We've known California is challenging an unorthodox move by Republicans to kill that waiver that has allowed California to enact its own emissions regulations. If California wins, it could force US automakers to comply with two diametrically opposed regulatory schemes. One being Trump's heavy anti-EV policy and the other being California's pro-EV regime. And remember, 11 other states have adopted California's stance as well. California has set its own tougher auto pollution rules for decades with bipartisan federal support. Ending that California waiver is essential to Trump's strategy, but the state's lawsuit alleges Congress has done it illegally. The administration filed a motion to dismiss the case that is scheduled for a federal court hearing on Thursday. And if the administration wins, then traditional automakers would face less pressure to sell money-losing EVs in California and the 11 other states, which together account for 29% of US new vehicle sales. And we have not yet seen that decline in Tesla's regulatory credit revenue, but they did point out Tesla and other EV makers could lose critical revenue from selling reg credits to other automakers that use them for compliance. And again, if California wins, traditional automakers could be forced to develop different model lineups to suit two contradictory regulatory schemes in the US. And they said in the article what we've been arguing now for months, the level of instability and confusion here is unprecedented. So this short-term thinking, the back and forth, every few years, the direction the country tries to go changes depending on who's in office. We have no clear direction, no clear path forward, and of course with auto manufacturing, where these companies need years to change direction, it's nearly an impossible situation to navigate. So we'll see how this one plays out, but this could certainly have some pretty meaningful ripple effects for the auto industry as a whole. Because again, those 11 other states that follow California's lead, they make up almost 1/3 of new auto sales. Today, we learned that Lucid is cutting 12% of its workforce. These will be global cuts. They did not specify the total number of job losses or the current headcount, but they had 6,800 employees at the end of 2024. They said the move was designed to streamline our organization so we can operate with greater efficiency and deliver on our commitments to gross margin improvement and long-term growth. And I think with all of the Cybertruck news, this one, which is quite important in my opinion, is being lost in the shuffle. But today we learned that Tesla lost its bid to overturn a $243 million autopilot verdict. But this one is not just about the money. It's about the precedent that this sets. The judge determined the grounds for relief that Tesla relied upon are virtually the same as those Tesla put forth previously during the course of trial and in their briefings on summary judgment, arguments that were already considered and rejected. Furthermore, Tesla does not present additional arguments or controlling law that persuades this court to alter its earlier decisions or the jury verdict. This was from the case where last August a jury awarded that $243 million verdict against Tesla over its culpability in a 2019 fatal crash in Florida. The jury assigned the driver 2/3 of the blame and attributed 1/3 to Tesla. The jury also assessed punitive damages only against Tesla. This was the crash in 2019 in Florida where George McGee was driving a Model S with autopilot engaged going about 65 miles an hour. He dropped his phone, he bent down to get it, and he failed to see the stop signs and the flashing red lights at a T intersection. And the car went right through the intersection and tragically ended up killing a girl and critically injured her boyfriend. They were both just standing on the road. So a tragic outcome, but we know that autopilot has always had limitations. The problem is under Florida product liability law, it's why Tesla was assigned 1/3 of the blame. Reason number one, they said the design of autopilot was defective because Tesla allowed it to be activated on non-highway roads when it shouldn't have been used. So the argument goes Tesla didn't restrict or disable that feature despite knowing the risks. The second argument was that the attention monitoring system was inadequate. But I will always say no matter what Tesla does, people will always find workarounds. And it's a fact the driver of that vehicle had 23 strikeouts just in the few months leading up to the accident. So he was clearly overall a distracted driver, but that's also part of the argument that he was able to continually re-engage autopilot with no penalty. And point three was the public commentary that Elon made about the capability of autopilot. So essentially, the jury decided that Tesla's conduct showed reckless disregard or at least indifference to the safety risks and those issues, and some of the statements that Elon made should never have been made. And given everything going on at the federal level when it comes to autonomy right now, some people are saying that this is used as a precedent to hold manufacturers accountable for ADAS marketing and design, meaning they're trying to set an example by using Tesla. But here's the thing, this was the only jury verdict that went against Tesla's favor. All of the prior trials, whether for autopilot or FSD, resulted in verdicts in Tesla's favor. And the word is Tesla plans to appeal this one even further despite the judge's ruling today, which makes a lot of sense because again, this will set a precedent and would likely encourage more lawsuits against Tesla in the future. But again, the word is Tesla will appeal this further despite this ruling. So Tesla will file a notice of appeal, and this case is in federal court, so it would end up going to the US Court of Appeals. And you know what they say, the wheels of the legal system churn slowly, so it could be another 1, 2, 3 years before we get an outcome on this case. Tesla stock closed the day at $411.82, up 0.03%, while the NDX was up 0.87%. The volume was 3% below the average. Hope you all have a safe and wonderful weekend, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.